recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or substance and behaviour in my case. I think we travel into other realms of addictive behaviour easily when we've got a substance backing up or fixing us on a daily basis. And I would never have described me as somebody who was fixing myself, although I was a drinker, I should think, 7 days a week for 35 years or thereabouts. Not always to excess, but certainly I used alcohol to take the edge off, find conviviality, joyfulness, access my sadness, my fears, my woes, my sorrows, my depression over lost love. Don't we all, or didn't we all? And what's wrong with that? Well, if we become dependent on an external source to fix the way we are, maybe it's time to have a serious look at our attitudes and behaviour to our drinking or anything else, behaviour. So for me, if it wasn't drinking, it was work. If it wasn't work, it was relationships. If it wasn't work, relationships or drink, it was doing something else to try and fix me. Collecting, getting the right place to live, the right car, appearing right. Ego, very brittle, covering up not much else. No real substance in there, no self-esteem. But I only know these things in recovery, because when I was out there fixing myself, I felt fixed. So I wasn't even in denial, I was just ignorant of what was going on most of the time. An ignoramus maybe, but at the same time, ignorance cannot be bliss when we don't know what's wrong and why do we feel this way. So gradually in recovery I've started to understand what it's like to experience my feelings as they occur, rather than have the feelings, push them down, either with a drink or with fear, because fear is great. It helps us suppress everything and put on a brave face. So lots of brave facing, lots of ego, and I don't mean ego in the sense that I wanted to rule the world. It was just enough ego to stop myself from falling apart. And in recovery, ego is an essential part of one's character as much as self-esteem, because sometimes we do get situations where we need just enough time to collect our thoughts, and sometimes the how dare you moment, where we say how dare somebody do this to us, is enough time to collect our thoughts and reflections and think, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Why am I feeling this way? So recovery is a bit of a rocky road. People call it trudging the road of happy destiny, and sometimes, as I know, we need to embrace both the good and the bad of life, the good and the bad of our feelings if we think a feeling is bad for us. But the truth is we have our feelings because they're there, and if we embrace them and understand them, it's not about being a goody two-shoes in recovery or Pollyanna. Certainly not. It's about knowing how we feel on a daily basis, to the good of life or to the bad, or the more difficult, even the sorrowful, and the tragedies that we go through. Because life is full of them, and we need time sometimes just to collect ourselves and understand the process which we're going through. So it's not easy to live life, whether we're an addict in recovery, an addict not in recovery, or just a normal human being trying to cope with what is life. So life is today, life is the experience of now, and that's my spiritual connection, the truth of now. So in my videos I share about what helps me, that's Alcoholics Anonymous, family, friends, community, society. But you know, I need to put sober first, and if I put sober first, then I get to know what my feelings are. I get to know how to be with myself and family, friends, community, society, and anybody else I might encounter. Whew, that's hard work, and that's what it is. That's life. Life is hard work, and sometimes it's difficult and not easy. But you know what? If we say to ourselves, misery is optional, and that's often said, it isn't. It's misery is just a part of living, and we need to go through the miserable times as much as we need to go through the happy times, or we don't know the difference. So no Pollyanna Don here, or Polydon. What is AA, and why is it so important to me? Well, here is the statement of intent, which is shared at every meeting. It's called the AA Preamble, and it keeps me on track and slows me down into the moment of now, where life is happening, not tomorrow, not in an hour's time, right now. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in that last sentence where it says our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, there are some key things about AA. It's got 12 steps of action to change attitude and behaviour on a daily basis, and we learn how to utilise the 12 steps and live them as part of our lives. And the fundamental behind that is open, honest and willing to change. And somebody wrote to me in the last 24 hours saying, what am I going to do when life isn't so good and people are asking me to share my experience, strength and hope when life is intolerable or just really unhappy? And the answer for me comes in a phrase which is often said in the fellowship of AA, secrets keep us sick. But I prefer to say secrets keep us stuck in the problem rather than moving into the solution. And the fellowship literature, the daily reflections, this book, is all about the 12 steps. And February is about being restored to sanity by a higher power. And we can choose what our higher power is. It can be the wisdom of other people, letting them in to help us. It can be just understanding a higher power of love can help us, loving ourselves and loving other people, and finding the truth of now. So when we're stuck in the problem, if we say something about I'm stuck in a problem and I need some help, we've got a better chance of moving on and getting help and support. And if people can't help us, maybe the only thing that can help us is time. So it's not easy being in recovery, and it's not even easy being a human being. Anyway, the reading for today, for the 12th of Feb, is The Root of Our Troubles. And it says, selfishness, self-centredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. How amazing the revelation that the world and everyone in it can get along just fine with or without me. What a relief to know that people, places, things will be perfectly okay without my control and direction. In other words, I don't need to control or direct anything. And how wordlessly wonderful to come to believe that a power greater than me exists, separate and apart from myself. That's the rest of the world, actually, and the universe and nature. I believe that the feeling of separation I experience between me and God is truth for me, will one day vanish. In the meantime, faith must serve as a pathway, or the pathway, to the centre of my life. Yes, faith, we all need it, a little bit. Faith in our human nature, faith in doing the next right thing, and not being stuck in the problem, and sharing about it. And if we do that, if we share about our problems, then the root of our troubles, which is our own fear of not being good enough most often, putting on a brave face in our ego, starts to disappear. So truth unsticks us. So secrets will keep us stuck, but telling the truth means that we can receive help, and often from the most unusual sources, often from just listening to our good conscience. Oh, what a relief. Anyway, that's the end of my time here today, and the Serenity Prayer, which is a meditation to a higher power, to God, or good conscience, whatever is your belief, and it has to be your belief, not mine. Mine is useless to you. It's a belief in what works for you. That Serenity Prayer to God, or good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, just for today. My behaviour trying to be perfect, because I knew you wanted me to be perfect, and actually never ever ever perfect. My videos, as I say, all about recovery, and one of the things about addiction is the nature of the problem keeps us very much in the problem, isolated, wondering how to get out of it, worried that people will see us for what we really are, alcoholics or addicts. And you know, the stigma attached can actually make it harder and harder for recovery, because not only do we have the stigma of others, we have our own personal prejudice against ourselves. And for some, this can lead to real self-obsession, selfishness, beyond any measure that anybody else can understand, where nothing but nothing seems to penetrate through that wall of what about me, my life, resentment, hurt, fear, putting on a brave face, ego in the extreme, to the point where you cannot actually take any other person's point of view, and learning becomes really, really difficult. And that's where a lot of us get to. And I guess for some periods of my life I was like that, and I need to remind myself I'm not the only one who goes through this. And what reminds me more than anything is going to the Fellowship of AA, where we have people who are 1 day sober to 30, 40, 50 years sober, a day at a time, and it is only a day program, moving from the problem into the solution of living life sober. So fellowship for me is integral to my recovery, and it is fellowship. It's an organisation, AA. Well, no, it's not an organisation, it's a fellowship. Get it right? Nearly fell into my own trap. Fellowship, ordinary people with all their foibles and outlooks. And the trouble is, we have to work on what we have, 1 day at a time. We can't solve all our problems in one go. Anyway, what we share at the beginning of every meeting is the preamble of AA. And I don't speak for AA, just so you know. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, and certainly doesn't endorse or oppose my videos. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the gift of fellowship is that we all keep our personal opinions, and we have this one similarity, a desire not to drink a day at a time. So whether you are a right-winger or left-winger, a middle-of-the-road person, a believer in God, a non-believer in God, but just having a bit of faith, courage and confidence to meet the day, we all rub along together, and we don't go by status. And hopefully in the end we stop judging others and start looking at our own actions and our own ability to make life work. It's a self-healing program, learning from others, experience, strength and hope. And I use daily reflections most days to give me a better outlook, if you like. And it's very apt that on February 12th it says this: the root of all our troubles, selfishness, self-centredness, that we think is the root of all our troubles. How amazing the revelation that the world and everything in it can get along just fine with or without me. What a relief to know that people, places, things will be perfectly okay without any control or direction. And how wordlessly wonderful to come to believe that a power greater than me exists exist separate and apart from myself. I believe that the feeling of separation I experience between me and God will one day vanish. In the meantime, faith must serve as the pathway to the centre of my life. And you know, my faith is in truth. God is truth, God is love, and God works through people. And who knows, my understanding and breadth of living may change my views. It often does, a day at a time. But there, the root of the problem, selfishness, self-centred. You know, the world is revolving around me and my problems, and why won't the world make its choice to be the way I want it to be? And the gift is, as we learn in the fellowship, is that we are powerless over people, places and things. We cannot change our history, and if we live in the resentments of the past, we undo everything about us. We lose our understanding of now. And Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now often talks about being in this one moment. We cannot change our history, but if we really live it over and over again, we listen to our secrets and we listen to the lies of the past. That gets us back into that mode of obsessive thinking and feeling that the world is doing something harsh to us, when in fact the world is just turning as it will. and the world will keep on turning without us, and some people may miss us, or some people will be relieved that we've left the planet, or we're not engaged in their lives because of the way we behaved in the past. But the trouble is, as we come out of the fog of alcohol or whatever it was that laid us low in isolation and fearful of everything around us, we still have to deal with life as it is. And if we're still full of ego, brave-facing, and putting ourselves first to the exclusion of others, never seeing it through other people's eyes, and never seeing it from another person's point of view, or we keep ourselves narrow, believing that God will do everything for us, then we are in trouble, because we need to work at life. We need to work at spiritual. We need to work at our courage, faith and confidence to meet the day as it is. Reality. Reality is the spiritual experience. And so often people forget this. So what do we do about reality? And where are we feeling safe? I mean, I feel more safe in truth and reality. The spiritual connection to now, the present moment, where we need not fear life as much as maybe fearing the past or fearing the future. And what about our friends in fellowship who maybe have a very narrow view of life? And that can be based on sometimes let go and let God, to the point where we don't actually take responsibility for our actions. You know, God made it so, so therefore that is the way it is. Or God will help me if I pray hard or meditate hard. Or God will be on my side because I have blind faith, courage and confidence. And the trouble with blind faith, courage and confidence is it has no basis either in reality or spiritual connection. So for me, experiences around people who say, God willing, God gave me a parking space, God saved me from a parking ticket, God saved me from my employer, all these things, and the resentments around life, resentments about the reality of now. I'm not paid enough. What am I going to do? I'm not taken account of. I'm not being pandered to. I'm not being seen as the true person I am. I am a good person. All these things harbour grudges against others and ourselves. So when people come to me and say, what shall I do about this and what shall I do about that? I suggest finding out what the truth of now is first, and then trying to change one item at a time. Don't make complete life changes all at once and suddenly find that nothing has any substance at all, and then the reliance on God becomes all-consuming, and the resentment against life, the universe and everything can be easily fallen into that trap that it's all the rest of life's fault and never mine. And I can do what I like because I'm me, and I have to put myself first. Happens too often in AA and fellowship and other environments too, where people still remain self-obsessed, selfish beyond belief, and cannot see the truth of now. I guess the answer is quite simple really. We have to find a way to live life finding the truth. And the simple truth can be that we have been relying too heavily on faith, courage and confidence without foundation. If there's no truth in what we believe or the faith we have, if there's no miracle that we can see, that each day we can move from the problem to the solution, that each problem does have a solution, and it can be that we can change something or we can't change something. And it's that serenity prayer which comes to hand. God, or in good conscience, or to the truth. Grant me serenity to accept those things I cannot change, courage to change those things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And over-reliance on faith without foundation is of no use to man nor beast. Years ago someone asked me what is the definition of insanity, and I said I didn't know, and they had a definition. It is, in fact, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So the madness that we can be in, that absolute madness of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We need let go, resentment, fear, ego, brave-facing as best we can. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect, never so, working hard for 35 years, and then spectacularly falling off my perch into a nervous breakdown, an anxiety state, fear, trying to put on a brave face, and relying totally on ego, so brittle that I was broken. And that was a few years back. And a few years later, I found myself in the problem of being addicted to alcohol and addicted to behaviour which was not helpful. Selfish, self-obsessed, seeing the world only from my point of view. And that's what my last video was pretty much about. But I go to the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's simply a fellowship of ordinary people, either 1 day sober or 30 years sober, depending on how long they've been going at it. And I've got a few years, so I'm not complacent. I really do believe that recovery is 1 day long, but we need to get to the truth of now, that spiritual connection to living. I go to AA meetings at least once a day if I can, and sometimes twice. And at the moment I'm going twice a day. And the preamble is shared at every meeting, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, and it neither imposes or endorses my videos. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So I never speak for AA. It's just a fellowship of people, and I think, for me, if I were in AA and somebody was speaking on my behalf, I'd get really rattled by it, and cross and angry, and be the anarchist and the rebel that I always thought I was. Maybe not such a rebel, just trying to fit in, please people, and losing my way. In fact, I don't know whether I ever found it until I got to sober living, and that's 1 day only. And I use the books of AA to help, and it's the second month of the year, and there's a 12-step program. And this daily reflection book here, which is part of AA literature, covers one of these steps per month, or focuses on one of the steps per month, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. So it's about being restored to sanity. I came to believe that a power greater than me would restore me to sanity, and that's all about the step 2. And step 2 of the program reads in summary like this. What can we believe in? AA does not demand belief. 12 steps are only suggestions, and remember, it's only suggestions. Importance of an open mind, a variety of ways to faith, and it's the faith which works for you. Substitution of AA as a higher power. Well, certainly there's so much experience, wisdom and hope, experience, strength and hope and wisdom there, that it helps me. Plight of the disillusioned. I was completely disillusioned by life. There were years when I didn't want to wake up, and I would drink myself into a stupor and oblivion, and wish I wasn't going to wake up. I did, over and over again. Madness. Loss to faith found in AA. Problems of intellectuality and self-sufficiency. Well, self-sufficiency and isolation, where we harbour all our resentments and fears about the world, will make us go down and down and down. Drink more, drug more, same thing. Self-sufficiency, yes, not good. Intellectuality. I've got a brain in my head, and I can twist things. I can have denial so good. I can argue the case for drink or not drinking. Negative and positive thinking. Self-righteousness. Yeah, self-righteousness, selfishness, self-obsession. Defiance is an outstanding characteristic of alcoholics. Defiance indeed. Going on to the bitter end, trying to solve our problems on our own. Step 2 is a rallying point to sanity, right relation to God, or good conscience, or truth. And for me, it's not what works for me, it's what works for you when it comes down to God, good conscience and truth. But my formula, which works for me, so you know, and I'm not trying to proselytise, that big word that people use, which is imposing my views on you. Please keep your own views, keep your own outlook. Find some experience, wisdom and strength and hope to keep on the right track. Mine is God is truth, God is love, God works through people. And blind faith, blind courage and blind confidence leads to blindness and the misunderstanding about the truth of now. We need to keep our eyes, our senses, everything working for us, trying to find the truth. And sometimes we cannot do it on our own, because all we ever see is what we see in the mirror. Harsh but true. And this 12 by 12 book is very good, because I hated it when I first picked it up, because it was telling me I needed to be interdependent with everybody, that I didn't live on this planet on my own, and it wasn't all about me. And it says in this paragraph on page 27, this is only one man's opinion based on his own experience. Of course. I must quickly assure you that AAs tread innumerable paths in their quest for faith. If you don't care for one I've suggested, you'll be sure to discover one that suits if only you look and listen. Many a man like you has begun to solve the problem by the method of substitution. You can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. Here's a very large group of people who have solved their alcohol problem. In this respect they are certainly a power greater than you, who have not even come close to a solution. Surely you can have faith in them. Even this minimum of faith will be enough. You will find many members who have crossed the threshold this way. All of them will tell you that once across, their faith broadened and deepened. Relieved of the alcohol obsession, their lives unaccountably transformed. They came to believe in a higher power, and most of them began to talk with God. And I guess that's me too. And the thing is, it's our own understanding which is so important. It's not my understanding for you, it's your own understanding of God for yourself. And mine is a very practical God. Nuts and bolts, working through people, looking at reality, seeing life as it is in the moment, and checking it out with other people. It's about interdependence, not codependence. It's not me telling you. It's you finding your path, self-healing, this program. And it's so easy to get bamboozled and go the wrong way. And as Bill sees it, which I haven't talked about in the videos today, it says here, page 26, true independence of the spirit. The more we become willing to depend upon a higher power, the more independent we actually are. Therefore, dependence as AA practices it is really a means of gaining true independence of the spirit. At the level of everyday living, it is startling to discover how dependent we really are, and how unconscious of that dependence. Every modern house has electric wiring carrying power and light to its interior. By accepting with delight our dependence upon this marvel of science, we find ourselves personally more dependent, more comfortable and more secure. Power flows just where it is needed, silently and securely. Electricity, that strange energy so few people understand, meets our simplest daily needs. Though we readily accept this principle of healthy dependence in many of our temporal affairs, we often fiercely resist the identical principle when it asked to apply it as a means of growth in life, of the spirit. Clearly, we shall never know freedom under God until we try to seek His will for us. The choice is ours. And my choice is improved by interdependence. And my understanding of God means that if God is love and works through people, those principles for living are kept sacrosanct inside me, that I'm no bigger, no smaller than anybody else. I have no more rights or less rights than anybody else either. But mankind can undermine us, and our own stigma against ourselves can make us very low, very selfish and very resentful, where we blame the world for our problems, rather than finding the solution to living one day at a time. So, in this final minute or so of the time remaining on this particular broadcast, what's important to me? I used to live putting on a brave face, full of fear, and an ego so brittle it wouldn't really keep me out of my problems, which was self-centered fear, self-obsession. At the same time, courage, faith and confidence to meet the day and find the solutions, to be open to what is happening in the world, striving to be happy, trudging that happy road to destiny, knowing that things will happen to me in life, and in recovery, getting type 1 diabetes, blamelessly apparently, having the diagnosis of clinical depression, which is actually very difficult right now, as my medications are all changing. It is very, very difficult. But, with a bit of serenity, I can accept those things I cannot change, and maybe have the courage to change the things I can, and learn a little bit of wisdom to know the difference, a day at a time.